And here we are, folks. I have a confession to make. I do like movies. Now, watching this show, you might get the impression that I don't like anything made after the year 2005. I can understand that impression, but and you honestly recently have had to go over to Mark Krawczyk's Spoiler Room podcast on Mondays, where we do a live stream at 9 p.m. Central or 9:30. Shameless plug. To hear me talk about movies that I actually like/love, and you come here to hear me rant about nonsense.
We're here for it.
Yeah.
But not tonight. Not tonight. If you're tuning in to listen to me pan a movie, I actually have great love in my heart, not only for my panel here of Earth's Mightiest Critics, but for the movie we're going to talk about tonight, Novocaine, from 2025, the #1 movie in America last weekend with a whopping $8 million.
Ouch. Ouch. Sorry, Black Bag.
Oh, so we're going to talk about it tonight, but I just want everyone to know this is going to be a very different kind of live stream because I'm here to shower the movie with love. A couple of little issues, that kind of crept in towards the end, but they're nitpicky things, things you think about on the way out to the car after it's done.
I got a quick question.
Oh no! Wait. The question is, what if David hates it, and would you just like to leave now?
No, I was just wondering if there's going to be live footage of your small black Grinch heart growing and growing as this episode.
Dang it, David! That's what I was gonna say. It's like the Grinch's heart grew 3 times as big because of Novocaine.
Look, I do love movies. It's just that I don't tend to pay to see them in the theater much nowadays. But yeah, we're going to talk about Novocaine. First of all, who are we talking with? I am Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. Of course, we have David Fowley of Keeping It Real and Katie Glidewell, the blonde in front, the artist known as the blonde in front.
Yeah, now I'm back to the artist. Yeah.
Well, so welcome everybody out there. If you're watching live, feel free to drop in a comment or a super chat. We're not proud. And yeah, let's get to it. Hopefully you have seen the movie because we will be talking spoilers probably in pretty short order. But this movie was co-directed by Dan Burke and Robert Olson and written by Lars Jacobson. Do those names mean anything to either of you? Because this came out of nowhere for me.
No. In fact, I've got the IMDb up, and I was actually going to cheat and look and by the way, who are these people that made this? No, sorry, you called me out on that. I have no idea.
Well, I hope that the #1 box office status curries some favor with them in Hollywood, and not the idea of oh, this movie made no money, so you'll never work in this town again. Because I want to see more from these creators. If you've seen the trailer for Novocaine, that was enough to get me hooked. I was excited for this thing leading up to it, and Lord knows I've been disappointed by enthusiasm for trailers. But what I was not expecting was for Novocaine to not just be a big, dumb kind of action comedy with a cute premise, but to be an actual film. The relationship, the love story in this movie, this is a perfect date night movie, and I can attest because I took my wife to see it, kind of dragged her along. She's like, I guess, but we both really enjoyed it. What I wasn't prepared for was the 2 lead characters. We get to spend 20 minutes in the beginning of the film getting to know them, getting to watch them fall in love until a horrible incident of a kidnapping and mass murder takes place, leading to a citywide pursuit in the name of getting back the girl. And plot twists abound, and we'll definitely talk about that. But let me ask the 2 of you. First of all, Katie, I know where you're coming from. But David, do you share my enthusiasm for Novocaine, or do you think it's just it's okay?
It's a blast. I had a great time. Best movie of the year, I don't know, but it's definitely one I would revisit and have fun with. I was totally invested, and I knew going in what I feel like it totally delivered on the vibe of the trailer, and then some. So I was hooked. I'm a fan of the actors involved, and I'm very interested in going back and looking at the 3 previous films that these 2 directors have made.
All right. Katie, high level impressions of Novocaine.
For me, I knew nothing about it other than Jack Quaid was going to be the lead star in it. So I am a fan of him from The Boys. I am a fan of him from several other like independent films that he's done, and I love Companion. So I was, looking forward to this. We had 2 press screenings, one on a Thursday, the other one was that Monday, 4DX or whatever it's called. So I was like, you know what? I'll do both. I did not see the trailer. I did not know that Betty Gabriel was in it. I did not know that Matt Walsh was in it. Jacob Batalon, Ray Nicholson, Amber Midthunder. So one of my things I always like watching these movies, like, oh, hey, I know you. Why do I know you? You were in Prey. That's why I know you. Hey, you were in Smile too. And then, Jacob Battle, it's kind of, he has a very distinct voice. I'm like, and that guy's not going to look like Jason Momoa. I know that for a fact because that's the kid. No, he's not going to look like. So I, a lot of the things, it's like when stuff happened in the film, it was like, I expected it, but I like the way they filmed that. But I was all ago the first time I watched it. David was there. He saw my enthusiasm, and I was like, this was great. I can't wait to see it on Monday. I really don't know what they're going to do, but okay. Monday was one of the best experiences I've had when I saw it in 4DX. That was one of the best experiences I've had all year. Like, that was amazing.
Did you have to see a chiropractor afterwards, or?
No, I got a little dizzy. I think some of my friends had more fun watching me and my reactions than maybe the movie. They're like, well, no, I liked the movie, but you were cracking me up. I'm like, yeah, because that was amazing. And considering that I saw it, I knew what was going to happen. So I knew, like, and as you said, 20 minutes, you get to see them. You get to see the love story about, I don't know if it's necessarily love. It's definitely like for one of them, maybe love for the other one, but, tit for tat. But then when it starts to go, it's just full adrenaline. Like, it doesn't let up. I like how the comedy mixed with the action. And yeah, Jack Quaid is a bona fide star in my mind. And so is Ray Nicholson. Again, I've told you guys this, Nepo babies be damned. Whatever, they held their own. It's got nothing to do with their parents. Like, these guys were fantastic in that film.
Yeah, and this was kind of my first experience. I've seen Jack Quaid he's in one of the Scream sequels somewhat recently.
Scream 5.
Okay. And I think I saw like the opening scene of The Boys where his girlfriend gets splattered. But that's the only bit of that show that I've seen. So this is my first kind of like introduction to Jack Quaid and also to Ray Nicholson. And it's undeniable. They both look like their fathers. And with this movie, you get a lot of that Jack Quaid / Dennis Quaid smile. Like the big wide expressive, there's just no mistaking it, right? And then with Ray Nicholson, he's a spitting image of his father at that age, and it's really weird. But I love that and this is the first thing I've seen him in, so maybe he's done his dad's thing in other movies, I don't know. But I was looking for him to be kind of like doing the Jack Nicholson thing, but he didn't. He was just, a guy playing a criminal.
Yeah, I've told you got to check out the Smile movies, and in Smile 2, he emulates the smile of Jack, but he doesn't have the the Christian Slater voice that.
Yeah.
But it's cool to see. Like when I look at Jack Quaid, I see a perfect combo of his parents. He's got his Meg Ryan's eyes, Dennis Quaid's smile, like you said, a little bit of Meg Ryan's nose. It's just
which one though.
Probably the left side, left nostril.
Ian. I got what you meant.
I see what you're saying.
I see what you're saying.
Wow. Top Gun nose. How's that?
Okay. Thanks for clearing that up.
Yes.
No problem. Yeah, it's watching this movie. I was just thinking about it before we hopped on here. This movie reminds me that like it has a certain, like, obviously it's violent, and when you think about like kind of like it has that rom-com violent, rom-com slash violent thriller vibe to it. So did Heart Eyes, but I like this kind of like or love better than Heart Eyes. I don't know, I was just more like sucked into these characters than I was that movie. Obviously, Heart Eyes is more of like a kind of like a updated take on the slasher flick. This one is like nebbish guy in over his head, kind of fish out of water type thing, all for the sake of getting that girl, kind of thing. And if done right, there's nothing wrong with checking off the old tropes box. It's like I think this still has. You have Jacob Taliban, who's doing the guy in the chair again. Wait, did I say
Babylon, not Taliban.
Taliban? Sorry. Babylon. Oh boy,
Yeah.
That's a different guy, totally.
Totally. That's his alias. But he's playing the guy in the chair again, kind of, and it's fun. But yeah, there's a lot of. I have to confess that like I did not see some of these twists coming.
And we'll talk about that
Yeah.
because there's one in particular that movies don't. I've seen like all of us. I've seen 1,000 movies, or probably more than that. You feel like every time there's a twist or a turn, it's very rare that you're surprised, but it's even rarer when you're affected by a plot twist. And my stomach sank. I got depressed for a good 5 minutes watching this movie. I think I spaced out because I was genuinely sad in my soul.
Oh, I think I know which one you're talking about, and that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about it. We'll confirm, but I want to put the spoiler banner on. But here's a question: 12 minutes in, what the hell is this movie about? Novocaine.
Oh yeah.
Let's just assume that, like y'all, the audience hasn't watched the trailer, but you should have. You should have seen the movie by now because we're talking spoilers very soon. But it's about a guy named Nathan Kane. He is the assistant manager at a credit union in Los Angeles, and it's
San Diego.
Is it San Diego? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
San Diego. I get my California all mixed up. But it's December 23rd. He's going to his job. There's a pretty young, I don't know if she's an young executive or a bank teller.
Bank teller, intern. Yeah, something like that.
Named Sherry, played by Amber Midthunder. And they've been working together for 4 months since she joined the bank. They go out to lunch, and he reveals that he has this condition. I don't remember the name of it, but essentially the gimmick of the film is that he cannot feel pain. And because he can't feel pain, there are certain things that he can't do, like eat solid foods, because he might end up chewing off his tongue. What I loved about the introduction to this character is it's not spilled out in this long, rambling monologue or done in voiceover. It is revealed to us. We see he's got like a half tennis ball on one of his door handles, I think, in his apartment, which it isn't really explained, but it doesn't really matter. Sherry has to kind of drag out of him the whole thing about the solid foods, and it really is a guy he keeps to himself. He plays video games. That's pretty much his only connection to the outside world aside from going to work, and he's very he's lonely, but you get the feeling he's kind of content but wouldn't mind some companionship. So here comes Sherry, and they get to know each other. They kind of go out on a date at this bar where turns out she's showing some paintings she's done. They share a drink. There's an encounter with a grade school bully who picks on Nathan and gets some delicious comeuppance from Sherry. But later on, when they're kind of getting intimate, we find that she's deeply wounded in her own way. And you've got these two very vulnerable characters. Katie, you're right. They're probably falling in but there is such an intensity and almost a relief and opening up of these two people finding each other, possibly for the first time, finding a true connection with someone else because of their past or what they have to live with. That's very sweet and intense. And so they go to work on Christmas Eve, and before he can really say, hey, that was great. A group of Santas bust into the bank with machine guns and start tearing up the place. And this is where you really get the sense of what this movie is going to be, because the bank president gets shot in the head, very gruesome, after not giving up the combination to the safe. Sherry gets taken hostage, and Nathan, in kind of a moment of desperation, he goes after them. The cars split up, so
in a cop car.
In a cop car, that's right. And there's a great kind of save the cat moment too, because there's a cop who's been wounded in a leg, because in between all this stuff, there's been a shootout in the parking lot. There's a cop who's down, and because they establish during the date that Nathan is an expert in terms of like medical books and wounds, because he kind of studies them obsessively. He stops and gives the guy like a tourniquet for his leg, using his belt. So that's the save the cat moment, establishing early on that, this is the hero, this is the kind of person he is, and this is why we like him and why we want to see him succeed. Thank you, Blake Snyder. But he goes after the one guy, follows him into a restaurant, the kitchen of a restaurant. There's a big fight scene. It's probably the big piece of the trailer. Everything from picking up a hot frying pan and slam the guy's face into it, to the gun flying out of his hand and into the French fry batter, reaching in and grabbing it, and it goes off, and it's all grotesque. But this becomes, I think it's a day-long adventure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And his online best friend, who he's never met in real life, Roscoe, played by Jacob Batalon, shows up to lend him a helping hand and change of clothes in some cases. But yeah, it really is, the gimmick of the movie is this guy's going after hardened criminals, and they throw everything at him, weapons, booby traps, gunfire, knives, all this stuff, and he can't feel pain. But as is in the trailer, but not in the movie, when Roscoe says, you got to be careful, dude, you can still die, you're not Wolverine. Which I was bummed that was not in the movie, but I'll talk about that in a second.
I thought it was.
No.
Okay.
And I realized that there's no place in the movie that I think would have worked as well as it did in the trailer. Because in the trailer, if you'll remember, it's the scene where he's putting his fist down in the glass and kind of coming up almost like Liam Neeson in The Gray to fight a guy.
Yeah.
And that's the voiceover for Roscoe says, you got to be careful, dude, you can still die. And when his fist comes up, he says, you're not Wolverine. And it's a beautiful trailer moment. It's very funny. And one of the things that hooked me, like, okay, this movie's it's smart. It's kind of cheeky. But midway through the film, maybe a little bit, not quite midway, here's where I'm going to talk spoilers.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
We see Sherry in being taken captive by these criminals, and it turns out that one of them is her brother. And it turns out she's been casing the bank and kind of profiling Nathan and trying to find a way to get him to notice her so that she can kind of help pull off this heist. But she didn't realize she was going to catch feelings for him. And it complicates things a bit, especially when her brother, played by Ray Nicholson, what was his name? Simon. He doesn't really care, and he just wants to get away with the money. But his crew keep. What's that?
He's kind of psycho too.
Oh yeah, very much so. But Nathan is on a rampage trying to get to Sherry, and ends up almost inadvertently dispatching everybody that gets in his way. Thus dwindling the criminal syndicate, as it were. So yeah, that's basically the synopsis, and we're already into spoiler territory. But that moment that I was deeply wounded by was the reveal that Sherry was complicit in this whole thing. I didn't see that coming, and because we'd spent so much time getting to know her and really hoping that Nathan came in and got her out of danger, I was like, this sucks. I want to get up and leave. Movie, make it better. And by the end, it ends on such a sweet note, as the same as it began. So it was wrapped up in a perfect bow.
Yeah, I agreed. I mean, I feel like there could have easily been like kind of heavy-handed or cheesy moments, but like when you said like your heart sank, to me, in my mind, your heart could have sank like twice when you find out and when he finds out.
Yes.
Because it's like,
when he finds out, and then you have that, like, it's like his life is flashing before.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, he doesn't feel pain, but that's when he truly feels pain in the
he still
film.
feels. Yeah.
That did hurt my heart, because it's like, yeah, I'm like, oh no, but I saw that coming.
Wow.
The Town.
The Town.
Ben Affleck movie?
Yeah, because people get taken hostage and all that stuff. However, if she hadn't been on it, they would have blindfolded her. They would have had her. I mean, she's just in the back. She's got the whatever. I don't even think she had handcuffs, or she had something like a very loosely tied hands together, but she would have been blindfolded, because I mean, as soon as you see their face, you know you're going to die. So I knew, it's like, yeah, she's in on it. She's in on it. And then when there's like Simon, it's like, oh, it's like, I'm like, yeah. But believe me, no one else it's like, I was like, oh, and I'm like, wow, I didn't think it was that much of a gasp, but okay. I mean, yeah, I mean, they do a very good job. And I think everyone does a great job in the film. Like, I honestly didn't think there was anyone who overacted or underacted. I mean, the fact that Jack Quaid is making me use a phrase that I cannot remember the last time I said this about a person. He's adorkable. I mean, he is, and I haven't said that in forever, and I love it, because it's just, he's so endearing. I love the fact that the exposition that they have, regarding what he's gone through, and he's like being honest with Sherry about, it's like, that to me, again, he can't feel pain, but you can see the pain in his face of him having to tell her why he can't do certain things. You see the pain in his face when the childhood bully comes along. So it's like, this film is about a guy who can't feel pain, and yet it's all of the painful moments that we're like seeing in him. And that's because of, the acting chops of Jack Quaid. I think he does an amazing job in this film. And I mean, for someone to act like that regarding a piece of pie, I mean, we know he's had a piece of pie before, but I believe that was the first time. I mean, the way he sold it, like, that was good. I actually wanted cherry pie after that. I don't know. I don't think it's the best film of the year, but it's definitely one of my tops. I raved to you guys when, David, you should have seen me when I saw Ian, and I was like, so we're going to talk about Novocaine. I'm like, biting my lip. It's like, please. He's like, it's going to be good. And I'm like, yay.
Pure ecstasy there in the lobby of the Music Box. Speaking of which, it's early in 2025. I'm sure we're going to see many more movies that are going to blow us away. The three of us saw a movie on Sunday night that I think is probably a contender for that being on that highfalutin list. And Katie and we talked about it, and y'all get to see that next month. Mm-hmm. But as far as best movies I've seen in a theater in 2025, this is probably way up there. David, you mentioned Hard Eyes, and I got Hard Eyes vibes from this too, but mostly because it's another kind of big genre release from a studio that takes its time getting the audience on the character's side, to the point where even if there wasn't an axe maniac or a bank heist, I would have wanted to see these, two couples from each of these films like do their thing and get together. I want to say just a quick note about the trailer. Can you imagine a world without trailers where you just had to go and see a movie knowing nothing about it, or posters even? Because
I lived in that world.
Yeah.
but here's the thing, like, even then there's like, there's a new movie coming out. It's about a guy who can't feel anything, and he goes on this, crazy adventure. I just imagine a kind of the setup as a romantic comedy, and then all of a sudden it takes this crazy turn. The audience has no idea, like, oh, I thought I was watching When Harry Met Sally, not a Gen Z version of Crank. And I say that with all love. But that, and also the fact that Jacob Batalon is in this film and he's in the trailer, it kind of ruins a setup of Nathan playing video games with his buddy, and his buddy is like, "Oh yeah, I ride a Harley. I've got long flowing black hair, and I'm totally jacked." And we see him, and he's like, this short, bald dude who's, not the ladies' man. It's a great joke in this on paper, but when you know who it is, Katie, you kind of alluded to it. You're just waiting for the joke to show up and play out. It kind of sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely miss the time when I was growing up. I mean, we found out about movies through magazines or posters, pretty much. For me, it was like Starlog or even Premiere or something like that. And that's how we found out. I remember seeing a photo in Starlog of like Back to the Future, and I'm like, what's that? And it was just Doc Brown and Marty, and it's like the dude from Family Ties. Whoa, but even trailers were shorter and they gave away a lot less.
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing the first time I saw the trailer for Return of the Jedi, I was like, I was like, whoa. And so, yes, the trailers give away too much and everything. But like you said at the start, I mean, this was a good trailer, and it wasn't one of those where I was, there's definitely trailers, probably most of them throughout the year that you just get sick of seeing. It's like, oh my gosh, enough of this. That's why I usually arrive, if I'm paying for the movie, I'll arrive like 20 minutes, into it. Because I'm done with seeing the trailers. I could see it anytime. I had a question for you guys. What did you think of the two detectives? I know one was mentioned to be Matt Walsh. And then the other is Betty as Mincy. Do you feel like... So Matt Walsh is kind of playing somewhat of a Matt Walsh character, and he's kind of hit or miss with me. But it was, to me, at least his character was a bit like too much, like kind of, dry, snarky comedy kind of thing. And I think, I don't know, those two characters are the only characters that I would really kind of like question in this movie. It's like, I would think that there would be a lot more like concern and like, from these detectives about some guy going after criminals and like, or, concern for everybody's well-being. Cause here's just like another loose variable out there,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I guess it does kind of match the tone of the movie, but I felt like maybe it was a bit too much. But
I'll give you Matt Walsh.
Mm-hmm.
And to be clear, this is the comedic actor, not the host on the Daily Wire. But a lot of confusion there. But no, he struck me as the like this is my last day before I retire guy, without ever actually coming out and saying it.
Yeah.
He's too schlubby, he's too disinterested, he's too into making like random sports references. And I just didn't, well, first of all, I'm not a sports guy, so maybe they were hilarious to other people, but I just kept wondering, like, did you wander in from a movie that was shooting across the street? I don't know what's happening here. But I did like our female lead detective.
She was good.
Betty Gabriel. She's amazing.
Playing Mincy. I thought she was nicely invested. I think there's a phone call where they're trying to figure out if Nathan Cain was an inside man in this job because he left when everyone else kind of scattered, and they don't know. He's stolen a cop car. He was involved in some of the violence at the bank somehow. So they're trying to suss him out. And he has this really nice phone call with Detective Mincy about, what would she do if the one person that she loved was, taken by criminals, and the one person she loved turned out to be her daughter. And it's kind of cheesy, it's kind of tropey, I think, as we've kind of talked about here. But damn it, if the actors didn't sell it, I think she was great throughout the entire movie. And I think Matt Walsh as the partner should have been shot in the crossfire, like in the very beginning, to like get him out of the way and maybe like put a fire under Mincy's butt to solve this case. As it stands, the only purpose he really serves is to be shot in the back at the end during this is one of my criticisms of the film. This movie's like 5th or 6th false ending. This is like giving Return of the King a run for its money. And I don't know which one I'd cut because they all work, but damn it, I was like, oh, this is another 5 minutes. Oh, here's another chase. Really? Wait, that guy's not dead? Holy shit.
Yeah, I've seen that complaint elsewhere about this movie that like, okay, we're not in. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that about Matt Walsh's character, because it almost would have been interesting if he did get shot early on, just wounded, not anything major, but enough for him to be her guy in the chair. So like you have Jack Quaid's guy in the chair, you got her guy in the chair. It would have been kind of interesting. And then like at the end, he opens up his mail and he's like, "We've approved your retirement" or something. It's like,
yeah.
But
or he forms a guy in the chair club with
there you go.
with Roscoe. Sorry, go ahead, Katie.
And it's also the fact that, I mean, it is around Christmas time. You have a guy who basically he's pulling a Danny Glover from Lethal Weapon. He's doing a Roger Murdoch, like, I'm too old for this shit. And it's like, even kind of like the tying stuff, although Murdoch was definitely more put together. But I also did you think it was weird how they did the whole premise of like, oh yeah, the police department is understaffed. We can't get anyone who's going to be here. And I'm like, what?
Again, that reminded me of Heart Eyes when they were in the police station and there's only 3 people in there. I'm like, okay, what is happening?
And it's like, oh, it's going to be 8 minutes before something. Like 8 minutes. I mean, anyone who everyone's probably dead who got shot. Like, wow, you guys are not great. And then, but I mean, they came right away for the when the bank robbery and stuff like that. But then,
well, yeah, but a bunch of those guys got taken out, so then you have less cops out the rest of the movie.
That was the thing. It also seemed like they were like rent-a-cops, because I was like looking. I'm like, well, do you guys have Teflon? I mean, do you have anything on that would prevent bullets from? Why is everyone such a bad shot? Like, what's going on here? Like, this isn't great.
I mean, you are talking about. I mean, the people who are pulling off the heists were led to believe are all ex-military, and they had some pretty serious hardware. They had the big long bullets. So vests or no, those cops were in trouble. As far as the only thing I can think about with the cops, the lack of cops in this movie, because we're used to seeing films where like an entire squad shows up and they've all got their guns drawn and everything. But the first thing I thought of was, well, this movie was probably written a few years ago where were we? We were in Defund the Police. We were in a lot of people like leaving the job and all that. So I'm wondering if this is supposed to be like a commentary on what happens if that happens.
Right.
But, my wife's big thing was, and we're in spoiler territory, remember, folks, at the end, when we have our Die Hard moment where Ray Nicholson has been shot and is allegedly dead, and then they bring in the stretcher and Jack Quaid's on the stretcher and they're rolling him to the ambulance, but that whole time no one's going over to like verify that Ray Nicholson is dead. I don't know exactly how much time, and the Mincy, she turns his back on the body and starts walking out. Both the cops do, and that's when the one guy Matt Walsh gets shot in the back of the head or whatever. It doesn't quite work, but by that point, it's so like, okay, here we're going for another ride, and it leads to a pretty kick-ass fight scene and all this other stuff. The ambulance thing was completely crazy. I loved how at the end it's turned like sideways and upside down, so the flappy doors are hanging horizontally instead of vertically. It's just very fun to watch and to look at. There's so much going on in this movie that, again, you nitpick it on the way out and not while it's, hopefully while it's not going on.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely a telling sign that the movie works when you're not nitpicking it while watching it.
Yeah.
My comments.
We do. I was just going to.
Oh, we have comments.
Well, Katie, make your share your thought, and then we will go to comments because it's been we got a bunch.
It's funny you call it the Die Hard moment because I call it like the Jason moment. It was very a horror cliche. It's like, oh, someone got shot. Okay, well, we can all walk away now. It's like, no, you need to check. So I'm very used to this in any horror movie that I see.
Right.
The only the major thing that I was like, and we're in spoileratory, so you know, if you haven't seen it, still see it because it's amazing. But the only thing that I was like, no, is when Nathan like was getting the paddles ready, and then he shocked himself and he shocked Simon, and I'm like, okay, so I can understand why Nathan could, you know, buck up with that, but Simon should have been on his ass for a while. Like that was, it's not like it was a 400 jolt, you know, I don't know medical terms. But I mean, it was enough that it's like, I don't think he would have bounced back like that. That's a little like, look, I've been with you guys, you know, this whole time, but it's like that I'm a little, but I do have to say, whoo, yeah, that Nepo fight is one of the best things I've seen all year long. Probably will see all year long. And that was also one of the best deaths. I'm not going to say who dies. That was definitely one of the best deaths. So gruesome. Yeah, that's one that, I mean, I warn people. It's like, look, this is an amazing film, but there is a lot of blood and guts, and you do need to be prepared for some scenes because, woo, yeah, you know, hold your cookies because and kudos to practical effects. Kudos to practical effects. Kudos to CGI. You guys did a great job.
Thank you.
With all the things, because poor little Jack Quaid probably had to be in that makeup chair for a while.
Yeah, and increasingly throughout the movie, you talk about gruesome deaths. There's the middle guy, the guy who died in the Home Alone house that had been set up with booby traps. His death scene, again, I won't spoil it, but it involves the arrow that was first shot through Jack Quaid's, through Nathan Kane's leg. And the way that fight gets resolved, it's brutal, it's savage, but the result is very funny. And then there's kind of a stinger where someone walks into the room and sees the aftermath. It's very cool. Yeah. But speaking of very cool, we have a bunch of comments here, and I love that.
That's very cool.
Heather Green says, I guess Jack Nicholson's Jersey accent isn't hereditary. Is he from Jersey?
I guess so.
I don't know.
Well, he definitely didn't bother with an accent in The Departed.
That movie's 20 this year, isn't it?
It's crazy.
What?
I need to watch it again, so maybe I'll actually like it. Anyway, yeah, I'm the guy who hates The Departed. Boss Baby says, was definitely surprised by this. Thought it would be just a kick-ass ripoff from the trailer. I could see that, but I'm glad you enjoyed it, Boss Baby, because we did too. I love your icon too.
Boss Baby, you're up kind of late.
That's true. Well, if he's like a newborn, you know, they don't really have hours.
That's true. Yeah.
Heather Green, also Sharper, where Brianna Middleton plays Justice Smith's dream girl. I don't get that reference. I'm anti-Captain America on this one. Sorry. Yeah, I'll have to make note of that. I assume that has something to do with like the twist that we were talking about, because that came in around the time we were talking about the twist where Sherry is not all she appears to be at the beginning. Heather Green also says, what I never understood about Blake Snyder, who, for those who don't get the reference, Blake Snyder is an author who wrote a great book on screenwriting called Save the Cat, which is where the reference that I dropped earlier came from. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't read it, check it out. It'll kind of ruin movies for you because you get a peek behind the structure and the tropes and why people do certain things, but it's very good. But what I never understood about Blake Snyder, writes Heather, is his point was to have a protagonist doing something likable at the start to give viewers on his side, his or her side, in reference to Ripley saving the cat in Aliens. Except Ripley doesn't save the cat until the end of the movie. Seems kind of late in the runtime for the audience to suddenly get on her side. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that, and I forgot that that Snyder was referencing Aliens there. But maybe his point was, yes, do this and do it early to establish the character. I don't know. I wasn't.
Sharper, a movie from Apple TV. Julianne Moore, Sebastian Stan, Justice Smith, John Lithgow.
Oh, yes, yeah. That's why I didn't remember it, because it wasn't that good.
But did it have a heartbreaking twist about someone getting kidnapped and it turns out they're in on it?
It's a twist and there's relations involved and stuff like that. And I mean, it honestly has an exceptional cast, and I was very surprised that I was like, oh, okay,
Oh,
this could have been a lot better. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
How do you spell that? I want that on a t-shirt. That'll be my mood when I go see most movies in 2025, I have a feeling. Not this one, though. This is like, huh? Heather Green also says maybe San Diego PD is understaffed at Christmas time. Possibly. They all took their holiday. That's it. And then Boss Baby says LOL.
because of the bedtime reference.
Yeah. Oh, Katie, I'm curious. My heart sink moment, was that the one that you were thinking of, or you're thinking of a different one? Because you said, I bet I know which.
Was your heart sink moment the moment that Sherry reveals that she's, that's what I thought your heart sink moment was. And I love that because I could tell, I mean, I wanted Nathan and Sherry to have that connection, but when you said that there was a heart, I'm like, oh, I bet you thought Sherry was a good guy. And I was like, no. It's always that thing when they don't give details about their family that I was like, yeah. And then the whole thing with they didn't blindfold her. I'm like, she's in on it. And I bet one of them is her brother.
I was thinking about that, though. I think that family story that she told was true.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How she was a foster kid and eventually got adopted, but she was adopted by a not so nice family. And so I could see how
my brother's insane.
Right. But I think what helped me, what didn't plunge me completely over the edge, was that she was in on it, but she wasn't happy about it. She's not like the criminal mastermind who was like, I was just using him to help pull this off. She didn't expect to fall for the guy, and that really complicates things, especially because she's doing the job with her brother, who, even that, you can tell that she doesn't like him, doesn't trust him, but he's also kind of the only family that she has. So it's tender and really kind of messed up too.
Oh, sure. No, you could totally, she caught the feels, but if they do a sequel, it would be very interesting. They had the mom and dad come after Sherry and see what happens, because I mean, she was a foster kid and got adopted. However, I mean, he probably learned it somewhere, and that would be very interesting if that was a sequel, and Jack Quaid has to do all the stuff all over again.
Okay. I immediately think of the Die Hard 2 trailer where it's like, how can the same thing happen to the same guy twice? Much like Hard Eyes.
Yeah.
But much like Hard Eyes, that movie it's very rare that it's a slasher film, it's a slasher comedy that is not set up for a sequel at the end. Or at least you'd have to like really get kind of creative to find out a way that this is going to carry forward. The same is kind of true with Novocaine.
Yeah.
And maybe that's because it's an unknown property. Non-franchise movies are very risky in Hollywood nowadays. So they possibly thought, well, this is all we're going to get. And with an $8 million opening weekend, it's all they're probably going to get, because this thing's going to get possibly run over by Snow White, which, hey, tune in next week to find out what we think of Snow White.
I've got swag for it too, so watch out, kids.
It's on Apple, is it?
Yeah.
No.
Is it a popcorn?
Don't eat it.
It's a big apple.
They gave you New York? Sorry.
They gave it to me. I'm that good.
New York.
Oh, one other comment here from Heather. If she said her foster family had courtside seats at Lakers games, might have given it away.
That's true. That is true. That is true.
Yep.
Oh, speaking of which, I shared this at our Facebook group, but apparently one of the publicity stunts for this was they got Jack Quaid and Amber Midthunder to sit courtside at a basketball game, and Jack Quaid was all in like a full body cast with like in traction and everything to promote the movie. I thought that's fun.
That scene was funny when he woke up in the hospital and he was like full body cast. It's like, can you imagine? I kept on thinking, like, can you imagine waking up and you can't feel anything, so you don't know why everything's wrapped up, and
yeah, and his body seemed like it was in kind of weird angles, like he was not very well put back together.
Right.
And at the end where he goes to visit her in prison, the way that was shot, yeah, you kind of figure out, okay, a little too much emphasis on the close-ups here. They're not really sitting across from each other at a, in a romantic setting. They're in jail. But it was nice. Like, I'm gonna wait for you.
And I will say too, like in the action sequences, yes, he doesn't feel pain, but he does feel like, like you could see that like mentally and emotionally getting thrown around and getting shot at, like that's a lot. That takes a toll. So his body may be kind of like a rag doll, being thrown all over the place, but like he's still like knocked out and like, so it's not like, he's Superman, where, bullets bounce off him. He doesn't feel any pain. He's not impervious or anything like that. But you could see, and that's what I was wondering, like, how is this going to play out? Because obviously we have to have him, physically show some kind of weakness. And the weakness is that he can't feel pain, but also like, how do you manifest that in action sequences, because he does get knocked out and he does get, put through the ringer. He bleeds, all this stuff.
Well, and it's a great point, because it's another, I think, layer to this movie, is because, to your point, his body can't feel pain. He is emotionally, exhausted, but his body does experience things like the loss of blood, like being knocked out. I mean, at one point he does have to have a shot of adrenaline to make it through the final scene of the movie. Right. And it is very crank, like the right. pupil, like, blows up and everything, but it's fun. The one thing I was very, very happy about, because I feel like they might have played the rule of three with this bit, and I was waiting for it to go the predictable way. We established that he can't have solid food. So the first time he has some pie in that cafe, it works out. At the end of the film, he has, was it the piece of birthday pie? And he chews it. I was just waiting for him to sit there like, this is so good. And blood like start pouring out of his mouth, and then smash cut to credits in a rock and roll song. They don't do that. He just enjoys a nice slice of pie. And like that sums this movie up perfectly. You think you know what you're getting, a big dumb action comedy, but it's a lot smarter and a lot more, dare I say, compassionate, which is weird considering the amount of carnage that's in this film, than you would ever expect from even the log line.
Early on in the movie, when he was in the kind of like the kitchenette area at his work, did he put like ice in his coffee? Like, yeah, I like that touch, because it wasn't like a cold brew. It was work coffee. And so I think like that's something that he had to get used to, because he can't, his body can't feel the heat and the temperature and all that. So he had to put the ice cubes in there, but she came up behind him and startled him, and it still spilled on him. And then he had to act like, oh
no. It's like when she saw him, it's like, oh my God. It's like he had second-degree burns on his hand. One, is this McDonald's coffee? What the hell are you serving? Like, that's really hot. But it's interesting that you said that little tidbit, because I didn't notice this the first time, but the second time, I mean, it's very obvious to notice the golf ball, the tennis balls, because they're brightly colored. But when he's in the shower, he has to make sure that the little turn on the shower only goes to a certain point, which I didn't catch the first time. And I was like, God, that's really, really smart, because I mean, he just doesn't know. But I like the fact that, I mean, from the get-go, especially, he works at a bank, and when he's talking to his client, Earl.
Oh, Earl. We didn't mention Earl. Thank you. Yeah.
It's like, I mean, you just know. And I like how, again, the directors and the writer does this. Nathan is just a good guy.
He's a good guy, yeah.
I mean, he could be bitter, especially, I mean, come on. I think there's plenty of trauma bonding that he and Amber.
That's what I call the Bob Parr moment, like The Incredibles.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much that is very, very much like Incredibles. And that's what I was thinking of when I was watching them. Like, why have I seen this before? But it's just nice to see someone who's a good guy doing good things, and he's not going to gain anything from it. Other than it's like, you know what? I need to live my life. I need to find that love that you had. And I mean, Earl had a great line. It's like, when he talks about his wife that died, it's like, I mean, 60 something years or the next, it would, or if she had died the next day, it would have felt the same because I just lost the love of my life. And I'm like,
Well,
I
and
didn't
that's,
quote that correctly, but
I don't know how. I saw this movie a few days ago, and as Dave and I were talking before, this week has felt like it's been a week long, and we're only 2 days in. So
yeah.
I had forgotten about that whole subplot, and it is sort of the part of the inciting incident as to why Nathan feels so compelled to go after Sherry, because he feels like this could be the thing that ends up being the lifelong relationship. And Earl is in his office. He's this older guy whose wife recently passed away. They had a hardware store together,
Mhm.
but he's having financial trouble and he's about to lose his house. And Nathan basically says, "Look, I can stall this paperwork in time for your wife's Social Security or something. The check should be here in a couple of days. I'll buy you enough time to pay this off." And so he does that, and then later he goes to Earl's store after he's been horribly shot in the arm, and Earl helps him remove a bullet from his arm. And then Nathan just takes some of this wad of stolen credit union cash and gives it to him and said, "This is going to help pay off your house or whatever." And then there's a nice little, it's heartwarming. And then there's a nice little tag at the end, like, "By the way, you might want to launder that."
Yeah.
He ducks out of frame.
Yeah. No, but that's the thing. I mean, Jack Quaid plays this. It's like I don't see anyone else who could have played endearing so well as him.
Yeah,
like
totally.
you don't see the fakeness. Like he's a good-looking guy, but he's not like Zac Efron, good-looking or something like that. But I mean, he's an attractive guy, and I'm sure. I mean, come on, in this world, he definitely would have had women falling all over him and stuff like that. But the fact is, he just never even goes out or does anything, but he still has a good heart despite all the stuff that he's been through. And you can tell, like, I mean, he doesn't really get into stuff with his parents. And other than it's like, once they found out that people who have his ailment only live to 25, it's like, and that's when they locked me up. And it's like, but I mean, each time we learn more about Nathan, I'm like, oh my God, I just love you even more. And I just love the way Jack Quaid plays him. So yes. Yeah. Okay. So maybe I have a crush on Jack Quaid. I don't care. So you guys know it. Okay, fine.
Hey, I can understand. I mean, I don't go that way, but I totally get it. But that's the other thing is, like, I think a couple of things. One, 15 years ago, this character Nathan Kane would have been played by Topher Grace.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful to time preventing that from happening, because I think Jack Quaid was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people hate on Topher Grace. I don't share that venom, but oh my gosh, and that was not a Spider-Man 3 joke on purpose.
Wow.
That just came out. I'm sorry.
I wouldn't want to call you a heretic. Oh, sorry.
How dare you? But the thing about that is that he's very much a Christopher Reeve, Clark Kent Superman type of character, because Christopher Reeve looked like Christopher Reeve, dashing movie star, great kind of attractive personality. But when he put on those glasses and he kind of hunched over and he was like very kind of meek and kind of afraid of people, you believed that was that guy. And then he turns into Superman. He's a completely different guy. The thing about Jack Quaid, yes, he's attractive. You might think that people will be falling all over themselves, but he has no self-confidence. He's got a lot of trauma that he's kind of buried. I also love the fact that he's moved on with his life and he's dealing with the problems that he's had in the past instead of like kind of obsessing over them or moaning about them. It's not the healthiest because he isn't letting anybody in who's not on the other side of a screen, like killing, orcs or whatever in this online video game. But it's just a character we don't see a whole lot of anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Heather has
there.
Well, I would definitely say, I mean, especially when we're at the bar and he's talking about, and the middle school bully comes up, you can definitely see why he doesn't let people know what's happened, because one person found out what happened, his life went to hell. He got beat up every single day. And then also it's like, so we learned why he always has like a beeper on his watch. It's like, well, that's to let my body let me know that I should go to the bathroom every 3 hours. And then he tells Sherry that, like, and that was fun too, once the kids found out about that. And I'm like, oh, this makes me love you even more, because it's like, kids suck. That I can't even imagine that.
You keep bringing up things that I loved about this movie, but that I've forgotten. It helps that probably that you saw it twice.
Yeah.
But was that ever paid off? Because that whole bladder thing and the beeper, because I kept thinking, okay, they've mentioned this twice. He's going to get captured, or the bad guy's going to find out about it. And there's going to be a scene where his bladder explodes and he pees all over the enemy or something. But I don't remember that being paid off at all.
It's the only thing where it comes up again is when Roscoe is going to meet him. He's like, I'll be there in 7 minutes. So he sets his timer, and that's when he's in the Wile E. Coyote Home Alone house. Yeah. Which I love that. And just his whole acting on, oh, yes. Oh, that hurts. No, this is horrible. And as you had mentioned something about When Harry Met Sally, that to me was like the Meg Ryan orgasm scene, except, it's supposed to be with pain. It's like, oh, no, not that. Oh, you're so horrible. Oh, that's the worst pain. No, you got me. Ow.
I wonder if he got any tips from her on that.
Maybe, who knows? But then in that scene, when after stuff happens and the beeper goes off and Roscoe says, what's that? It's like, oh, that was my beeper for when you're supposed to get here. And then he says, I probably should go to the bathroom. And then Roscoe's like, yeah, what? And because he doesn't know that whole thing, but the audience does. And I'm like, that was funny. But that's, I think, the last time we heard about, that's the last time I think we heard about the watch.
The thing that, and this is why the screenplay is much smarter than I think other screenplays would be, is because when that comes up early on enough in the movie, you think, oh, that sounds really gross and really uncomfortable. And the kind of thing that if he's going to be crossing a bunch of like bad guys, that could be very inconvenient and possibly even a method of torture for him. Like if he isn't allowed to go, or he's kept from his timer. I don't know. But I'm not complaining that wasn't paid off. I just couldn't remember if they did anything with it. But you're right, Kay. That was the last time we heard of it. All right. Heather says, I admit when I first saw the title, I thought it had something to do with dentistry, and maybe other folks did too. Very possible.
That's the Steve Martin movie called Novocaine.
Did I see that one? I don't
think so. If you have to ask.
That's true. Well, we're just about, I think, wrapped up here. We're almost at time. This is our movie therapy. Anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to talk about here for Novocaine?
I like the facts, as we were talking about the police and everything involved. I like the fact that when Nathan is in the hospital and then the detective comes in, and I mean, two things. One, when Roscoe's there, he's like, yeah, Merry Christmas. Like, oh, is it Christmas? No, dude, you've been in a induced coma for 3 weeks.
It's like January 11th. Yeah.
It's like, no, it's like, oh, okay. And then it's like, he's still, I think he's like in handcuffs or something. I mean, he's got the nasty thing on his hand. But that Betty Gabriel detective says, it's like, okay, so you have murder, attempted murder, like all these charges. And then, and it's like, so is that bad? It's like, well, you have a great character witness, you saved a cop, and you're a white guy in California. So no, it's going to be and all that stuff. But I like the fact that she went through all of the charges for what he practically did. I'm like, good. So it's not like he got away with it, but he got away with it. But I mean, the only one that I think honestly didn't deserve what they got was the tattoo artist, because that was pretty gnarly.
That was pretty nasty.
Now, what happened to him, and that also, that was again great practical effects on that. But it's like, that was pretty bad what he did to him.
It was, and the nice thing about the tattoo artist is that he was, he had a bit more personality than you would think from just a mindless brute. He's kind of playing mind games with Nathan, like, oh, what was that? What was the guy that you're looking for? What's his last name? And then Nathan's like, I don't know. How would you pronounce his last name? Turns
How
out
would
it's Clark.
you say his last name? Let's say
Right?
it together.
Clark.
Ready?
Yeah.
1, 2. Okay, never mind. Yeah.
But as far as what he got, I think that the clue is the thing that he had tattooed on his neck that he ends up getting filled out
Yes.
during that struggle. It's almost unfair because you kind of like the guy, or at least you like him better than you think you might, random movie henchman number 5. But then you see what he's got on there and like, okay, he's involved in some pretty nasty stuff.
Right.
So I don't care that he's horribly blinded for the rest of his life.
Some comeuppance.
That is
Yeah.
true. I forgot that symbol on his neck. Yeah.
Here's a question. During that tattoo struggle in 4DX, did the chair like vibrate and shake?
Yeah.
What?
Oh no, everything. And the thing is, it's
Everything.
like, here's the thing. I am a poster girl for 4DX. Like, interview me, get me everyone should go see 4DX because it is incredible. When there are certain scenes when the bullets are firing, you feel like these little like puffs of air go through your face, go by your face. And I was like, what? And then all the stuff with the car, it's like going you like this and like when they run over anything. But then if someone gets shot and there's blood, they do a little water spray on your face, which the first time that happened, when the bank manager gets killed, and then I'm laughing, which I'm like, I should not be laughing because this guy just got killed, but it's like, I think we all know what's happening here. Like,
well,
it was incredible.
David and I saw Flight Risk, the Mark Wahlberg movie in 4DX, and that was, I think, our first experience with that. So yes, we are also 4DX converts. There wasn't as much shooting of people in the face in that movie, so Novocaine definitely sounds like a special experience with the actual misting in the face.
A lot of turbulence.
Topher Grace. I mean, there you go. Look at that.
Yeah, and I thought he was good in Flight Risk, especially towards the end. He's got this nice little kind of soliloquy as he's might be dying, and it's kind of touching. But so folks out there, thank you very much for hanging out and watching us talk Novocaine. Thank you to my panelists for talking Novocaine. I'm glad we all agree. I'm glad we're here to celebrate a movie that we all like. Don't tell anybody. I actually like movies. I love it. Cherish this moment because I wonder how I'm going to be feeling about next week's movie. I'm going in with an open mind and open heart, but I'm very skeptical about.
Someday your movie will come. Yeah, you saw it last night, right?
Next week, everybody, because it's going to be interesting.
Oh, I should announce this. And I haven't told anybody this, so here's the warning. Next week, we're going to be talking about the new Snow White, but we're going to be doing it as part of our newish series called Here We Go Again. We're going to be talking about the original Snow White and the new version. So this is your homework. You've got time to prepare. If you're able to watch or if you remember it well enough to talk about it.
We're also going to be talking about Mirror Mirror and the Huntsman and the Huntsman 2. And
hey, I haven't seen it since it came out, but I was a big fan of Snow White and the Huntsman. I thought that movie was unexpected and kind of kick-ass. But I didn't bother with the second one because why? But and I don't think I saw Mirror Mirror.
It's fine. No one else did either. So
okay. Well, ringing endorsement.
The one movie that Julia Roberts didn't like buy a house from. I mean, it's like that was just.
I forgot she was in it. Wow.
Exactly.
She probably did too. Heather Green closes out with, is it in The Gambler where James Caan and Elliot Gould have the bet about naming all of the dwarves? No, was that Harry and oh my gosh. I talked about this with
Harry and
Pat
Tonto?
McDonald. No, this is going to drive me crazy. It's no. Okay. I will dig this up, Heather Green, and next episode, or I'll just leave a link in the comments or a link in the show description to the episode where I talked about this movie. It was a great movie. I know what you're talking about. I don't remember the dwarf reference, but the two actors, yes. I talked about this with Pat McDonald like a couple of years ago.
Had to have been from the 70s.
It was, and it was a complete flop, and I don't understand
Harry and
why.
Walter go to New York?
That's it.
There you go.
You're welcome.
Thank you, David.
Kudos
Thank
to you, David.
Yeah, well, IMDb.
Yes, very good.
Kudos
And
to
Mikey
you,
K.
David, looking at IMDb. Yeah.
Well, he's
David.
officially you joined the ranks of Roscoe and our Matt Walsh cop. You are
That's
my
right.
dude in the chair.
Right.
But okay, thank you, David, finally, of keeping it
Oh,
real.
well.
Thank you. Oh wait, hold on a second. Sorry, mixing it up with the Gambler.
Right. It's okay.
70s scoundrels.
It's
Works, Heather. You're among
Yeah.
friends here. David Fowley of Keeping It Real, Katie Glidewell, the blonde in front. All your information is below, folks. Go out and support their work. Follow them. All of Earth's Mightiest Critics. Their links are all down in the description. If you like this live stream, please like and subscribe and hang out with us every week talking movies. Next week, we're talking about Snow White, both of them. So we have at least a 50-50 chance of talking about a great film. So until next time, whenever that is, whatever that is, thank you very much. Take care. And, make Novocaine the #1 movie in America for 2 weeks in a row.
2
Just
weeks.
can you do
it.
that, please? Thank
Make
you.
Novocaine great again.
Yes. Make Novocaine great again.
It was great. It was always great, David. Novocaine was always great. Yes. That's where I stand.